Welcome, everybody, to the Nightly News Podcast. This is Professor Paul Miller, and I am so honored to be here during Homecoming 2023 after our Nightly News Hall of Fame induction ceremony, which we got to induct two of the guests that we have today, both Tyler Coleman and Parker Rose. Congratulations on being the newest Nightly News Hall of Famers. Of course, Tyler, it is such a pleasure to have you back on campus. Congratulations on your induction into the Hall of Fame.
Well, thank you so much, Paul. I appreciate it. It's always great to be here with you guys. Really been a special day, awesome chain of events that went down. And, so happy to be able to share in this day with you guys. You guys are such a huge part of the club, and it's always a thrill to be here with you.
And Parker Rose as well, one of the 2023 Nightly News Hall of Famers. It's always such a pleasure to see you. I know that you live fairly local to campus, and you do get to come over every so often. Work fairly local to campus, pardon me. You live a little bit of a hike away, actually. But what did it mean to you to be here today, and share this with both your significant other and your parents?
It was just a really nice day, not only to just celebrate with Tyler, Leslie, and Yuli and all the other Hall of Famers that were inducted in previous years, but also just seeing some old faces on campus, like seeing Dr. Ellsworth, Dr. Frederici Williams, Adrian. It was just a nice day to do everything, and I'm grateful for being inducted in the Hall of Fame, and it was just a nice day all around. It's great to be back in the studio with you, Brian, and Tyler. It's just like old times again.
Just like the old fantasy football strategy guide days. Well, and of course, what would this podcast be but without 2021 Hall of Fame inductee Brian Christiana? Brian, of course, welcome back to the show, and thank you for joining us at our Hall of Fame ceremony today.
Thank you.
Honestly, Brian, though, in all seriousness, above and beyond the old fantasy football strategy guide days and even calling the games, what was it like to get to see your two very close friends be a part of this experience?
It was great because they deserve everything that they've gotten in life. They worked very hard for it. And it's just super exciting that while we're recording this, we're going to get to do this again next week, the four of us. So I'm very excited and very thankful to just be in the same room as you all. It really, really genuinely means a lot.
Well, what you're talking about there in terms of next week is we get to be a part of one of our buddies' weddings here next week. Let me ask you, to what extent have you told your bride-to-be about the old media club days and the podcast days? To what extent have you shared with her the importance of this in your life?
I would say that I told her that it was a big part of my life because when we first met, I was still in school at the time. So she knew what I was going through when I would have to go to the games and write articles and things like that. So she did get to see it firsthand. I think sometimes it's not always as easy as explaining to people what we really went through and things that we did. But it's, I think it's one of those things you kind of had to be there with us. But yeah, not even just her. I would say I tried to explain that to a lot of people of how much this club meant to me.
And I hope that with her being here today and her seeing and listening to what not only I said, but other people said about you, and then the things that you said about it yourself, I hope that in some small way that this is, something that you can both, obviously, I know you take pride in, but I hope that she takes pride in it as well, in that you are, a major part of her life.
I was definitely going to say it's important. She took off work to be here today, so when I told her that we got the invitation, she wanted to be here. I think, like I said, she was a big part of helping me really finish up school because we had started dating on one of my last semesters here. So it was really cool to get to share in this experience with her and with everyone else involved.
Now, one of the things that I've been doing, this is actually the third of 3 podcasts with all of the Hall of Famers. One of the things that I've been doing is I've been going through and asking everybody some of their most favorite memories of things that we did in the club. Now, of course, we talked about a lot of things down at the Hall of Fame today. But as you think back, what were some of the things, and I'll start with Brian, what's the coolest thing that you remember us doing, or one that's the most memorable that still sticks with you to this day?
Coolest thing that we did, that's a tough one. I thought it was pretty cool having RJ here.
I saw that picture. When I saw that picture of Parker and RJ, it definitely got a big
I think having
smile.
RJ, me personally, having Bob and Tom here together.
Well, can I hold that thought for 1 second? One of the biggest things when I think about you, not obviously the sports broadcasting thing, one of the things that I didn't get to mention today about you was that you were the driving force behind the speaker series.
Yeah.
And we had, not only was Glenn Hamilton
Yep.
here, we had Bob and Tom both here, and of course RJ. Am I forgetting someone?
No.
Okay, we got all of them.
No.
But it was your idea. You put it on. You pretty much did the whole thing. And almost every single time we had a room full of 40 people, especially with RJ. We were standing
RJ was
room
big.
only.
RJ was big.
I mean, that was something that just goes to show you that if you have a vision, that you can make whatever you want happen. And you came to us with this idea. You're like, look, I have access to these people. I'm working with these people. I think people on campus would really love to hear from them. And I remember every single one of them getting to meet Glenn, getting to meet Bob, of course, getting to meet RJ, I was kind of a little fanboy there because I've known
Yeah.
RJ for many years.
Yeah.
I got to give you just so much credit because it was amazing that you were able to sort of envision this and make it happen.
Yeah, I agree. That one, I think that was probably the coolest thing we did. I mean, the Phillies game was awesome. We had a really good time. I just think that the people we had throughout the years, though, really made the club. I mean, Ian was the one that got me involved. And
We miss Ian.
I genuinely do miss Ian a lot. And I'm not trying to get emotional, but that man does mean a lot to me. And he always will. So, yeah, that was probably all that moments were cool for me.
Cool. Parker, when you think back to your experience with the club, what's something that sticks out to you?
Well, let's just start off with saying that I didn't think I was going to get as far in the club for being an accounting major. Here I am first, thought the nightly news was just for strictly comm majors and everything. And when I was basically accepted with open arms and taught everything, and everything I did, like got on the cover of all the different volumes of the writings we did. And
Your parents told me you never gave them copies of those.
that's a lie. That is a lie.
I
'Cause
made sure they had copies of them.
I'm ready to say every time I brought them home, they read them. So, but I will give.
I'm just telling you what they said. I'm
And
not trying to
then-
get you in trouble.
And then like what Brian said too, like just the brotherhood we had with like me, Tyler, Ian, all of us did with everything we did, like going to the Phillies games for the college, which was really fun. One of my favorite writing pieces I did with Christian Fulp, another club member and alumni. And then just our fantasy football strategy guide, where all of us either poke fun at each other for saying something. Like I have him in my top 20, and we all look at each other like, "Why do you have him in your top 20?" And we all try not laughing. A lot of good memories.
I loved the strategy guide. We did that for better part of 3 seasons, which was really cool. And since then, I've been trying to get some of our newer people to resurrect it and haven't quite gotten the same feedback that we did with you. But gosh, guys, that was so memorable, and it's just something that we all just enjoyed. We're still in a fantasy league today, to this day. Parker and I just made a big trade this week. Then as soon as the trade goes down, Tyler messages me and he's like, well, who do you want for the guy you just traded for? And it's just like old times, man. But one of the things, honestly, that I think about, Parker, with you was your willingness to kind of get out of your comfort zone. As you mentioned, you were an accounting major, but what you said today really resonated with me, that the benefits of this club, even if it's not necessarily you wanting to get into broadcasting or you wanted to get into public relations or journalism, you saw the value in what we were doing no matter what job you were pursuing. You even shared how this club helps you in your accounting job. Again, you're just a perfect example of what we hope to exemplify with the club. And again, your service. When I was going through and putting together the PowerPoint, I got to see the old pictures of you walking a mile and doing the Real Men Wear Pink. Like, that shows you, and you were such a good example for other people, not just about being involved, but actually getting involved about things you care about.
It's just really funny that you mentioned that, Paul, because it's just like it felt like that was so long ago. Like when you were saying I was in the military, I'm actually now out of active duty. I'm now on my 2 years of being active, so I'm actually done with what I served, so I'll be a veteran here shortly. I actually was on Facebook today scrolling, and actually there was a memory of Fall Harvest for 5 years ago that when Janet had us do that play when I was dressed like a vampire and Malcolm Fox.
I remember that.
It's just crazy how time flies when you're having fun and making it with good people.
Well, and again, thank you for your service, and thank you for being a part of what we've become here. Now, Tyler, one of the things that I didn't have a chance to bring up either, but one of the things that, yes, it's not necessarily your day job, but you still continue to be involved at PCN, where Brian was as well, directly from internships that you guys had over there. I mean, even though, again, it's not letter for letter like media in terms of your day job. Like, what does it mean to you that you still get to keep your foot in the door as far as calling games with the Nightly News and still continuing to work at PCN?
I mean, it means a lot to me right now, especially the fact that I'm able to make time for it, and that, in a company like PCN, they know that, oh, you have a full-time job and then you can still make time to come work there part-time. They're able to work with your schedule is great. When you ask the question of what did we enjoy most about the club, I really want to, it sounds basic, but say everything. I think just because, like I said during my speech, I'm a non-traditional student. So the fact that you guys came to me and we were able to figure out how to work the games, write the stories, do the podcast, all while I was working full time, still doing classwork, and so it really meant a lot. And I don't know if I, in a sense, would be where I'm at today without this club. Like sort of like what you said with Parker, pulling you out of your element. And the biggest takeaway I think with everything that went down today, I'm able to look at this that with you three guys that I think there's a friendship there that's for life. Like there's those connections now that we made, and it wasn't just one of those things that, oh, you did, your 4 years in school. This is something that we were able to take away and all the different experiences and events that we went through, and it really does mean a lot to be able to look back and reflect on it today.
Well, speaking of which, there's a couple of things that I want to talk to you about, some of which I talked about at the ceremony, some I didn't. First of all, obviously all of you were very instrumental in the Final Out documentary that we did. I will never forget that day as long as I live, and only because, obviously it was great to see all of you, but only because of how weird it was. Like, it was almost like we were doing something wrong congregating in Christian's relatively small apartment at the time. But I believe, yes, I was doing it for class, but I believe that is something that these gentlemen who were a part of that film are going to look back on as sort of a memento. And even though they got their final season cut short, they're going to be able to show that to their friends and family and loved ones for forever, or 20 years from now they can throw it on. And all of you are very integral in that piece. But really what I want to talk about for the rest of the show is this sports broadcasting. I mean, one of the things that I do get a fair amount of praise is for the broadcasts. And the bottom line is, if it wasn't for all of you, these broadcasts never would have even gotten off of the ground, let alone would we still be doing them. And I just, number one, appreciate all of you being willing to come back and be a part of our broadcasts, and certainly look forward to having you guys back on our basketball and baseball broadcasts. But when you look back and you remember kind of getting this off the ground, tell me, Brian, walk me through sort of your memories of how this all got started.
It was a project. So, I mean, it was you approached us about it, and it was more like, all right, how are we going to get this going? It was really just, we wanted to do it, but I didn't know how we were going to do it. Then you told us about it, and it just went from there. Like, you pretty much told us what we needed to do, and we just got it going. Hey, get a media packet going. Just get familiar with the equipment. I remember Ian and I being in the yoga studio that they have now, just working on it, and we just went rocking and rolling. And then it was literally, like, the class was called Projects and Communications, and it was a project. It was a really hard, difficult project, and we got it rocking and rolling.
I also remember you actually helped a local church out, using the same technology in order to live stream before the pandemic even happened.
Yeah.
I actually remember gentlemen actually messaged me during the pandemic, reaching out to try to find you to thank you because they were ahead of the curve. Because once the pandemic happened, all these churches had to go to live stream. They were already ready to go.
Yep.
And so he'd reached out to me during the pandemic to thank you. But again, like, when I think of sports, obviously there were others than just us core three that were integral. Yeah. But if it's not for you three, this doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So Parker, when you think back to your experiences with athletics, what are some of the things that you take away?
Well, I'll first mention this is I did amount, but not as much as what these two gentlemen here with us on it. They were the main stars that did cover to cover, color commentating, and everything. Even took the main role in a couple. But the best part about was just calling the games under the lights. You can't go wrong with calling a baseball game under the lights. Or my other favorite memories was even at East Pennsboro High School, being able to work the table for Casey Hicks and like do the book or even the scoreboard and just hanging with like good people like Brian, Tyler, Bobby McHugh was on the table, and even Ian. Like me, Brian, Ian had so many memories over on that table with former women's head coach Chris Norkus. It was just fun memories, and that's one thing you can never take away from sports. There's the main game, and then there's also just the camaraderie you have with your fellow friends and everything. And that's what is important about a club and sports, is doing with people you enjoy, sharing ideas, and building that chemistry.
I remember the first game that you called with me, and I will never forget because I took a picture. It was the most beautiful night, sunset ever. The lights, we were playing under the lights and in the net. Most beautiful night that I can ever recall, and every once in a while I'll come across that picture in my phone and it will immediately transport me there to that day, and I will never forget having the opportunity to call those games with you, Parker. It was always an adventure. Tyler, tell us a little bit more about your memories, maybe some more recent than others, for your experiences with athletics here and our broadcasts.
I mean, I would think the experiences that I've had have been fantastic. Now, I didn't do nearly as much as Brian. I know Brian was the one who really got the ball rolling with this, so I have to give him his credit where credit's due. But just to be able to be a part of this, I mean, I don't get to do broadcasting as my full-time job, but to still be able to say that we get to participate in the games, it's still something that I would put on a resume, post the videos on social media. It's a really cool story when you can tell people like, hey, I got to do broadcasting when I was in school and still participated into it this day. So if you would have asked me 5 years ago, could you see yourself calling games and doing podcasts? I would have said no.
You are awesome. Like all of you. I love calling games with you. You have to understand that sometimes when I am out there with a variety, let's just say others, right? It's a whole different calling a game. Like you guys are so prepared. You have so much knowledge. I mean, it's a treat to get to call games with you guys, and to the fact that you still, even after being out of school for a little while, come back and are a part of what we are doing. You really, like, it's funny, I told a couple of the guys that were sitting at your table, Dalton and Blake, who are part of our sports broadcast team today, I was like, yeah, you guys will be sitting with Tyler, like, they're like, oh, yeah, we know Tyler. Like, they were super excited to see you because, these students, they look up to you guys. I mean, they really do, because they know that you're such influential people being a part of this Hall of Fame, but also because of the professionalism, frankly, that you bring to the table.
Well, I also want to say, thank you again, because again, I don't do this as a full-time job, but in a sense, it was because of you guys that I got to live out a dream a little bit, calling baseball and basketball games. So even though it might never turn into a full-time thing, it's still really cool to be able to say I got to do that and explain that, the experiences that we had with people, because there are so many students out there that want to do things, but they don't know how to go about doing it. Well, you guys really made that easy and available to us. So at least from my perspective, I thank you so much for opening those opportunities.
But Tyler, the feeling's mutual. I mean, I talk about this all the time about how this is a dream that I get to call these games. And yeah, it's only a small part of my job, but the bottom line is I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for you guys. I mean, I can't do this all myself. It's funny, I have a sports broadcasting class where at least for the rest of this term, we're really focused on calling the basketball games. Of course, we'll have you guys back after the first of the year. But here's the thing, actually, and we have a big game coming up on November 27th, so tune into the YouTube channel. It will be Tyler and Brian, and I will be relegated to the producer. So it will be the two of you calling this game, so that'll be interesting. But here's the bottom line. It's a team. It's a team effort. I can't do this myself. I literally can't. And so I could have wanted to call sports all I want, but if it's not for you guys stepping up and being there and taking it seriously and being professional and understanding how important this was, I wouldn't be able to get to do it either. So as appreciative as I am for that thank you, I want to illustrate and issue you the exact same thing. So thank you, Tyler, for being a part of this broadcast team, as well as Parker, as well as Brian. Well, I appreciate so much not only just your efforts as students, but also your friendship. Brian, you made that point earlier about, and Parker and Tyler, we all kind of made this, our friendship and the fact that we get to join Tyler at one of the most special days of his life next week is something I'm very honored to do. So again, I want to congratulate Tyler Coleman, Parker Rose for being 2023 Nightly News Hall of Fame inductees. Gentlemen, it's just been my pleasure today, and thank you for spending your afternoons with us.
Yeah, well, no, thank you again. Like I said, I appreciate you putting this day together. It's been awesome to get to come back and have sharing this with you guys, and congratulations to Parker and Brian as well.
Yeah, Tyler hit it right on the head. It was a great day. Nice catching up with us and all the other alumni, and congratulations to Brian again, and well spoken at the ceremony. And congratulations to you, Tyler, and also shout out to Yuli and Leslie, who were earlier on the podcast. Just great all around. Great goats. We got goats and MVPs and everything in the Hall of Fame now. Just need a ring in the jacket now, Paul.
We'll get there. And Brian, always a pleasure, and congratulations. We already did this 2 years ago.
Yeah, I was going to say, good job, guys. You'll get a good job. Yeah. Keep doing what you're doing.
You gave an awesome speech today. So.
Did I?
Yeah.
We needed that opener.
That's what I mean. Like, everyone's all serious, trying to be emotional. Let's just lighten up the mood, man. Let's just have some fun.
You got to get a good catch together to get everybody listening.
Exactly. And you know what? Like, that's what I mean. Like, I enjoyed having a good time with everybody. The food was good. Everything about today was good. And I'm just thankful for Paul just to seriously keep inviting me to this stuff.
I will.
And keeping me involved.
You got it. All right, well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Nightly News Podcast. Again, congratulations to 2023 inductees, Parker Rose and Tyler Coleman, and 2021 inductee, Brian Christiana. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the Nightly News Podcast. We'll see you again next time.
Hi, this is Brian Christiana. Thank you for listening to the Nightly News Podcast, a part of the Nightly News Media Club here at Central Penn College.
Well, welcome everybody to the Nightly News Podcast. This is Professor Paul Miller, and of course we are continuing our discussion with here on Homecoming 2023, just after the Nightly News Hall of Fame celebration, and we are here with not only a previous Hall of Fame inductee, we are here honoring one of our guests of honor today, a modern day or present day Hall of Fame inductee. So first off, I'd like to welcome previous 2021 inductee Christine Fusselman. Christine, not only thank you for being here, but welcome back to campus, and so glad that in some way we can continue to honor you and your efforts.
Well, thank you for having me, Paul. It's great to be back.
Well, it's our pleasure. And of course, fellow award-winning podcaster Leslie Heimbaugh. Leslie, congratulations on being inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Thank you so much. I loved it. And it was just such a beautiful thing. Thank you.
Well, so today, what I really kind of want to talk to you about now, in sort of contrast to the previous episode that we had, you two weren't here at the same time. So you may not necessarily have shared some of the same experience. However, why I wanted to bring you in here today is because you can really provide some pretty amazing insight on what it was like being here as part of your time. So I want to start with Christine. As we've talked about on previous podcasts, talked about earlier today, Christine was one of our original members of the Nightly News Media Club. You told a story earlier today about the conversations that came to be when we were sort of envisioning this back in the day. Can you share that with the podcast listeners? What was it like when you were one of the original people that went to us and said, we need this to happen? Like, tell us a little bit more about how this whole thing got off the ground and what your role was.
Okay. Well, in one of your classes that I had, we were doing a lot of social media. It was a social media class, and we were realizing that it was just a small part of the social media that was happening in the world around us, but it was, I actually thought it was elective class, if I'm not mistaken.
Possibly.
But there weren't a lot of classes like that in the college. I mean, it was corporate communications, but we were realizing that there were classes lacking that were being used out in the real world outside of the college, and that some students might need in their future jobs, because we would also look at to see what jobs were out there for us after we got out of school and what was required. And some of those things were missing. Like podcasting was definitely a big thing. It wasn't something that we had in the curriculum, using even just the other social media. I mean, we were talking like Instagram and LinkedIn and things like that, but not necessarily like a day-to-day something you would use for your job. But we discussed as reporters now, they go out and use potentially their cell phones to do their job. They're telling the story, they're taking the pictures and doing everything all by themselves sometimes. We saw the need, and there was a few of us that were also communication students, and we brought it to you and Professor Limpy, and you guys were pretty piped and excited about it and wanted to do something and try to make it happen for us.
As I think back, right, the best memories I have of college were the time I spent in the radio station. Maybe initially I was just coming in, doing my show and leaving, but as the more you're there, the more people give you your respect and credit. And by the time I was a junior, I was, pretty well known at the station. And my senior year there, I was like one of the main head honchos. And so, granted, at the time that we started the nightly news, I was still just a part-time professor. So, and of course, I didn't have to be a club advisor. It was just something I wanted to do because the outlet wasn't here. There was no newspaper, there was no TV station, there was no radio station. Well, guess what? Not only do we have an online newspaper and quarterly publication, we have a podcast studio, and we have sports broadcasting. Maybe not quite a TV station, but we do still do broadcasting. And so that was what, to me, needed to change. We need to have an outlet. Now, we started small, right? We started with just a website and, the quarterly publication. Do you remember what the first story that you worked on was? I don't. I mean, I'm asking you just to see if you know.
I don't know. There's a lot of crossover because between different things that I wrote for classes and what I wrote for the...
Relatively recently, we just published something that you had written about the old dress code.
Yes.
And
that was
when
for a class.
You covered the decision that was being made to go away from the dress code.
Right.
And we actually republished that recently, and that got a ton of really good feedback on it as well.
Good.
So
I didn't know how
course.
that went over.
Absolutely. It was great. So, Christine, seriously, thank you so much for giving us some insight. So, Leslie, tell us about some of the memories that you had of the club and your experiences with the Nightly News.
Well, I said earlier about it being an outlet for my passion, and it was a place where I could afford to go on about something and really pour my heart and soul into things, and nobody said, calm down, it's not that important. It was important. And being able to, film had always been a big part of my life, and I have experienced things through film that I would never have had the opportunity to learn about, and feelings and emotions and things that matter to me and human relationships. And so to be able to, dissect a film in an academic way, I think was, everybody can say what they like or don't like about a movie, but covering the film series, it had to be academic. It had to be a smart view of what the professor at first was trying to point out about a film and to get people aware, make people aware of. And so it just became a remarkable outlet for me. And to sit around with a group of people, obviously much younger than me, but to hear what they were thinking about social media, about podcasts, and what was important to them, it was just really inspiring and really made me feel alive.
You exemplify what I try to say to students all the time about the club. When people ask me, what do you do as part of the club? Like, what can I expect? And I said, we cover things going on campus and really whatever you're interested in. When you first came aboard, the first thing I ask you is, what are you interested in and passionate about? And you're like, I love movies. This is right about the time the film series came to be. We were looking for somebody to cover these events, and you gravitated to that. Not only did you continue to do that, won a PNA award for some of your coverage on the film series, but you were then able to mentor our future CBC film series correspondents, and on 2 separate occasions, you were actually able to present. Of course, one in person and one virtually. Of course, this is long in the past, so I think we can all laugh about it now. But unfortunately, in 2020, Leslie came down with COVID right before her presentation. But the trooper that you are, the show must go on.
Yes.
Leslie literally recorded her presentation on a PowerPoint, and we played it in all of the classrooms, and it was Obviously, we would have loved for you to be there.
Sure.
But it was so interesting and cool, like that you did that, even though you were, very, very ill, to say the least. But it's not just the film series. It was the podcast too. That was just sort of another passion project that we had. And I can tell you that, again, not only award-winning podcaster, all that stuff, it was like you can still listen back to it, and it's just like it was yesterday. Like I just remember sitting in the studio with you, and it was just something that we both wanted to do. And we'd always talked about continuing it, and I think that ship has sailed. But that 10 episodes, we put so much time and effort and energy, and they came out so good.
Yeah.
And I'm so proud. And sort of a little cherry on top, my dissertation topic came out of our final episode.
Yes. Yeah,
And
that's
it
so
all
wonderful.
had to do with a conversation about is Die Hard a Christmas movie, which it
Yes.
is, and I can share that with you on another podcast.
Yes.
But both of you, it's like, what I love about both of you is it wasn't just about you and what you were trying to get out of this. It was about you being leaders. And now, Leslie, you're leading an whole entire nonprofit organization. And Christine, you've always been a leader in everything that you do. What was it about being here and being a leader in the club that ended up transferring over into your day-to-day life?
I don't know. I just try to encourage people to be the best they can be, try new things, continue their education.
There's not enough people like that in the world, though.
Yeah.
So I want you to know how much that means, not only to me, but to other people who you had that chance to be
I try to
with.
exemplify that for, I have 2 sons, to them, but to their friends, and, that I'm still learning. I can't, you can't stop doing it, whether I'm doing it at college or not. I just mentioned the thing. I've been taking pictures all my life, but I'm like, guess what? I went and started classes. I'm on my 3rd photography class.
That's great.
So just trying a new angle of it and get better at it, and maybe a new career, who knows. So, or to expand the one that I'm still working on from the communications aspect. Get out of the office and do something a little bit more fun with the writing and photography. So.
And you're obviously a wonderful at it, and I think that would be a good opportunity for you down the road.
Yeah.
Leslie, we kind of knew all along that you were going to end up in this position at some point. But what did your experience with the Nightly News impart on you? Like, what did you take along with you to make you a better person?
Well, it still stems back to passion. You were a fantastic mentor in that I never felt shut down. I always felt encouraged to take things as far as I could, and to be my best at all times. To certainly behind the scenes we could let our hair down and talk about our frustrations, but what I want to put out there are truly positive vibes and passion, so that hopefully some of that will rub off on people, and they will say, hey, just like you said today, if it matters that much to her, maybe I should look into this. Maybe I should dig in and care about this, because it's important to all of us. We do adult ed, and again, we all do better when we all do better. That's what I'm trying to help people understand, that if everybody does a little, everything gets better. So, yeah.
I appreciate so much just the kind words that everybody said about me today. But the ones that really resonated the most with me were the ones, it wasn't just all of us. It was also a dozen club members that are current members. And for them to see how much this meant to you in hindsight, to not just you, but to everyone in hindsight, I think was one of the big benefits of this.
Yes.
Of course, I don't do this for all of you to just pat me on the back. I do appreciate it very much, but this is really all about honoring all of you and the amazing work that you've done here, because this is nothing without you. We can provide all of the opportunities in the world, but if people don't take them, what's most interesting about the two of you was because, you were non-traditional students. There's certainly nothing wrong with that. But you being able to have families, jobs, and still be able to give extra to the Nightly News Media Club is frankly a motivation to other people, maybe even traditional age college students who maybe aren't working and maybe aren't getting the grades they should in class, to say, I need to get myself together. If Christine or Leslie can do this, I can do it too. And essentially, Norm was just in here too. Norm was the same way. You know, if somebody who's in a different position than me can have all of these responsibilities, I can at least go to class and be a part of the club. And so even in sort of an unspoken way, both of you were so instrumental in fostering the people around you's involvement, because if you're able to do it, they are too. And both of you just so happen to have a ton of great people alongside of you. Of course, I remember Nick and Candace. And of course, there were several others. I don't want to forget anyone, but we had a great core of people. Kim Crone, I remember, had a great core of people when we first started. And that's the thing. Unfortunately, a lot of clubs on campus, like, they have a good start and they just can't last. We last because we have people continually passing the torch, from Sherry to Leslie to Jen to Abby. I mean, it's really just been incredible. Our presidents, you know, year over year, 2 years over 2 years, like, these are people that have just kept it going, and only could have happened with you and your guidance from both of you.
Can I just say,
Please.
Jen Dulac was a third of my age, but the things she was doing inspired me and pushed me. I watched her public speaking ability. It was so different than anything I'd ever seen, but it was so compelling. And then her film, her broadcast skills were so beautiful. And you know, it's funny, you can aspire to be more like someone that is 1/3 your age, and she took direction from me. We talked about life things all the time. She was very evolved, you know, socially and everything, but it was just a beautiful symbiotic relationship because we just really fed off of each other. It was a gift to me.
You know, she's working at Fox 43. She's the producer of the morning show.
Amazing.
I know. It's so wonderful. And, you know, one thing I didn't get to mention today, there was a picture on the board of you and Jen, and you mentioned her, you brought it up. So Jen, one of the biggest things that she did was we had our first ever CPC film, not a film series, but it was like a
festival.
Film festival,
Yeah.
yes, thank you. And essentially, not only did members of a specific class I had do it, she actually recruited like a half a dozen students that just did it for fun.
Yeah.
And it was remarkable. And of course, both you and her took home the main awards from the work that you did. But it was one of the most memorable experiences that I have had on this campus.
Absolutely.
And the greatest thing about it, for once, I didn't really have to do much.
Yeah.
All I had to do was I like evaluated the films. A lot of times we do stuff, I'm the one that's kind of putting it all together. And that was fun because that was actually the first time I got to screen my own film.
Oh my gosh.
Here on campus, which is great. It's just so funny, like, all the things that we've done, and like that was so important, but yet it wasn't even something that rose to the top of the things that we have done. And you know, for many of you, especially the two of you, I mean, Leslie, I know you were here a little bit longer, but most of the students that have made a serious impact have, you know, they're only here 2, maybe 3 years. Like I said, Dylan was here for 6 terms,
I know,
and he was
he's
able to do what
amazing.
he was able to do. You know, as great as it is to have had an opportunity, we miss him.
Yeah.
And wish he could have. Maybe I should have failed him in his last class. But honestly, the effect that you two have had on other people, I don't even think I can put into words the impact that both of you have had on the people who have been a part of the club under your guidance and tutelage. So as all the nice things that you say about me, I want you to look in the mirror and say them to yourselves.
Thank
Because
you.
again, if it wasn't for you two being the glue that you were at the time, who knows what would have happened.
Well, I have to just throw it back one more time to you because I don't know a lot of people that are willing to put this kind of effort
Absolutely.
into inspiring people and pushing them just a little bit harder to do.
A lot of people don't like it.
But see, I thrived with it. That's where I found out what I was made of. I'm serious. You made me recognize that there were a lot of things I would have sold myself short on if I hadn't been pushed a little bit to say, okay, I think we can do a little bit more here. And can you just, explore this, explore that, again, I still to this day, I'm always like, is this up to Paul's standards? Is this good enough? I'm not kidding. It's really,
Leslie,
it matters to me.
yes,
It
it
matters
is.
to me.
I appreciate that, but I'm just going to save you from having to ask yourself that again. The answer is yes. But Christine, and having you as one of the founding members as part of the Hall of Fame is something that is very important to us. I actually remember saying something to you one time about, coming to the Hall of Fame. You're like, I was only really part of the club for a couple terms, but without you, there is no club.
Right.
So, of course, we have to honor you because you're one of the people who helped drive the ship from the beginning.
Yeah, we kind of saw the need there, I guess. But I did remember one of the articles that I did in the beginning was about the theater, because the theater was the play, and it was Dr. Hyde and Hyde and Hyde with Janet Bixler. And that was a lot of fun interviewing. I got to go to the practice and interview the people that were participating. And one of the other things I think that was so important with the club, and even while I was in it, and then I've seen it again and again and again in the stories that I've been hearing from people that have been involved, is the importance that it made in their life. And it's just, I find that awesome, that it made such a difference. Because I know it did in mine, like Leslie mentioned, yes, I was here for communications, but not everybody that's in the club is in communications, but they found it as like, wow, that's pretty interesting. Maybe that's something I could try out. Or they had a passion for it as like a side gig or something or whatever, but they find, not that they necessarily go use it in their career exactly, but they've found an outlet, like you talked about with the movies. It's just kind of a way to bring out a talent they didn't realize they had a lot of times.
That's it precisely, yeah.
Right, or just even get out of their own shell. My goodness, I'm like losing a name
I would
here.
just say, though, that even Parker brought this up, like the fact that he was in accounting. At first, I remember talking to him, and he said, I'm not sure why you want me to be a part of this club. I'm in accounting. I'm like, Parker, it doesn't matter. Like, sure, we strongly encourage communication students to be in this, but it's for anyone. Right. We've had people in PTA, criminal justice. We've had people from every walk of life on campus be a part of our club, and that was one of the things that I've continued to strive to do, to branch out beyond our communication students, to try to get some other people on campus. Well, listen, I just want to thank the both of you with all of my heart for being you and having this not only lasting impact legacy here at Central Penn College, but seeing the people who you affected over the years, even if it was in some small way, but it might be in some large way as well. You are always going to be eternally remembered here at Central Penn College, and that to me is what being a part of the Nightly News Hall of Fame is about, is recognizing your efforts and your trials and tribulations, even though coming back to school with families and jobs and responsibilities and still giving, you show these students that there's no way you can make excuses about not having time or not having. You are clear examples and exemplify everything that our club stands for. So both of you, I just want to thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you so much. This was a pleasure.
It was.
Well,
Thank you.
Congratulations again to our 2023 inductee, Leslie Heimbaugh, for being a Nightly News Hall of Fame member, and, of course, our 2021 Hall of Fame inductee, Christine Fusselman. Of course, both of you are very close friends of mine, and whenever you're in the area, I'm sure that we will catch up again. But for now, thank you so much for coming to the Hall of Fame celebration today, and I hope it's not the last time we see you here on Central Penn's campus.
Thank you.
Thanks.